So let's bring on Nathaniel J. Brown.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's going on, brother? How you
Doing
doing?
good. Doing good.
That's good. That's good. So real quick though. So I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Well,
Wow.
I say Charleston, but I'm from Somerville. Do you know where
Uh-huh.
Somerville
Yeah,
is?
I know where Somerville is. Yep.
Okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
I had to make sure, because I was, trying to do a little digging in, and I think in some podcast episodes you talk about being down from the South,
Uh-huh.
and technically, I guess you would be considered low country, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, cool. So we got that in common. So you know what a dirt road is, then you get the dirt road, and
I know what a
the
dirt road
path,
is.
you get okay.
Know what all that stuff is. I lived and grew up on those things, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my a sweet memories. I had this I was like chilling and just thinking about my past. My
Mhm,
grandparents passed early and or earlier in my life.
mhm,
And I just like something reminded me of my granddad's truck coming down the dirt road. And I could
mm.
smell the dirt. Like at that
Yeah,
moment in time, I could smell the dirt. I could taste it in my mouth.
yeah,
When you're
yeah,
walking and it's all dusty, you can
yep,
taste it.
yep.
But yeah, man.
I
So
love it.
yeah, you gotta love the low country, and I don't agree with everything that came out of the low country,
Right.
but it is who I am. It is where I
Absolutely.
come from.
Absolutely.
Um, so I want to ask you, just to jump. I don't. So when I do my interviews, I'm not like I don't like to do the question to ask. I'm about
Right,
to ask
right,
you
right.
thousands of questions. I love to have a discussion,
Absolutely.
and a dialogue.
Yeah.
And but the first thing is like your perspective, and your perspective coach. And
Mhm.
so just starting off with your perspective on life before the pandemic and your perspective after, these
Mhm.
past few years.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've seen the necessity for connection.
Hmm.
I remember when the pandemic hit, I was working as a personal trainer in a gym, and most of my clientele is older population. So because I love training people like in their 60s and up.
Oh
That's
wow.
just like
Okay.
getting them in that like the giving them that vigor of life back.
Yeah.
And but the fear around it all, there's a fear of connecting. What happened was the media rhetoric and all the other things that came into play
Mm-hmm.
got people to believe that it wasn't okay to connect anymore.
Mm.
And the buzzword turned into contactless. So you had an uprise in depression, an uprise in sexual molestation from children because everybody was locked in their home. They didn't
Yeah.
have an outside community they can go to. An uprise
Mm.
in mental health disorders, an uprise in divorce. Everything just reached this boiling point really quick because it was pressurized because it
Mm.
had no contact from the
Mm.
outside world.
Mm.
Anything that's pressurized is only pressurized because it lost contact.
Mm. It's only pressurized because it lost contact.
Right. Contents are under pressure because they have no contact with the outside world.
Mm.
Something has caged them in. So
Yeah.
when you buy a aerosol can of whatever,
Hmm.
Lysol, whatever it is, it'll
Yeah.
say caution,
Hmm.
contents under pressure. Do
Mm.
not heat, do not expose to extreme
Right.
temperatures because it's volatile, right?
Yeah.
So connectivity is powerful because when you contain it, it becomes volatile. So the thing
Hmm.
self-destructs. So you put a can,
Mm.
an aerosol can in a fire and it'll explode, and all the contents that was supposed to serve you
Mm.
is now
Wow.
harmful.
Wow.
That's my perspective. So we're
Yeah.
now coming back to who we truly are and
Wow.
connecting with community.
Yeah.
And the power in that is actually showing that we are truly resilient people.
Facts. That is a fact. We are definitely resilient, but I just love the way you describe that, and you're so you use your imagination, and I can tell you use it all the time by how you just described that. The visuals,
Mm-hmm.
and so with that, I was just thinking like when the pandemic happened, and yes, it was contactless, and I did feel like we detached, but I felt like the pandemic showed us who we were already
Yep.
before. You like the pandemic was just like this is now you can see who you guys really
Yep.
are.
Yep.
And that's why at the forefront when we're coming out of the pandemic, the forethought was not let's go out here and start to love. It was let's go out here and be this whoever we want
Change.
to,
Right. Yes.
it's crazy. So
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on that? Like, why do you think people just are so void from love, like they don't have love inside of them. Like, why do you think that is?
It's it's a lack of having a someplace to belong. The thing about love is that it comes in several ways. There's unconditional love, which we know as agape. There's friendship love, which is phileo, or there's erotic love, the love of things that are tangible, that are
Mm-hmm.
tactile, whether it's a connection with a loved one or something like that. It's all these levels of love, and I
Yeah.
think finding a place to belong within those categories is necessary. If you lean
Mm-hmm.
too much towards eros, then you're missing out on the things that you can truly be a friend to, or things that are unconditional that you can serve. Because when you're
Yeah.
saying you love something, or we're loving someone, or we're loving one another, what we're actually saying is we're positioning ourselves to serve you. We're wanting to
Mm-hmm.
give ourselves to you in some capacity.
Yeah.
So a lover of thought, it would be a philosopher. It's
Mm-hmm.
phile sophia. It's the knowledge, the one who loves wisdom, who has become a
Mm-hmm.
friend of Sophia, wisdom. So you have
Mm-hmm.
that friend of wisdom, and people who got into the Stoicism during this time frame, they got back into their emotions, they got back into who they are, started
Yeah.
asking very important questions, and they're
Mm-hmm.
able to befriend things in a different way. So people who were more so extroverted probably found themselves loving the Stoicism, loving the peace, and they became a friend to something else. It's still a
Mm-hmm.
form of love. We've got
Yeah.
to redefine it, though. We've made love romanticism. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing that's been mostly romanticized is victimhood. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody's come out of the, we're oppressed, everybody's oppressed. And is anybody healed? Is
Right.
anybody okay?
Leash. Is
Okay.
anybody real?
Is
Come on.
anybody okay? Because a seed that's put in the ground, what it germinates, it breaks
Come on.
open, and it gives you fruit. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
the seed only withstands that pressure for a very specific amount of time. And
Right.
if the seed is good seed and the ground is good ground, then what you'll
Mm-hmm.
get is exactly what was planted. The
Mm.
problem is if it's planted on rough terrain, someplace where
Yeah.
it can be blown about, it never has an opportunity to take root. Right.
Mm.
So that's the
Okay.
place where it does not belong. It doesn't find a place of belonging because it
Mm-hmm.
can't take roots. You only take root where you belong.
Mm.
And you can be tolerated anywhere, right? But you
Right.
take
Come on.
root where you belong because that's where you flourish. That's where you thrive. That's where your fruitfulness thrives.
Yeah. God dang it, Nathaniel, man. You over here. I felt like I was in a boxing ring and somebody just kept hit me with some knowledge. Bow, bow, bow. I thought you was done. Bow, bow. That's powerful. So like and I'm visual as well. Like
Hmm.
I love to think about things. So when you're talking about this seed and
Hmm.
you're talking about it being planted in good soil,
Hmm.
and we're talking about the pandemic and the
Hmm.
world and
Hmm.
love,
Hmm.
you could tell that this soil of the world is not good.
It's not. Essentially, it's not good if we determine good or bad as these
Mm.
two polarizations. Now, here's where it gets really tricky. Okay,
Yeah.
if we lose the polarizations and we sat in the middle as the observer, then good and bad don't exist anymore. And then
Mm.
good takes on a new meaning. The word
Right.
good at its root. I study a lot of ancient civilizations, and I
Yeah.
taught myself to understand some Hebrew and things of that nature, so I can understand some of the
Mhm.
ancient texts. And the word good simply means functional. It's the word tov in Hebrew. It just means that whatever it was created for, it's going to do exactly that. So is
Mm.
there good soil at all, or is there bad
Mm.
soil?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. There's just environments that are bad, but the soil
Mm.
itself has the ability to do exactly what it's supposed to do. You put water on soil, it's going to give you something back. But if you
Yeah.
put it in an environment where it's arid, there's no water, there's no humidity, then it's a
Mhm.
barren place, right? So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with just meaning. We're dealing with meaning here. We got to
Yeah.
separate good and bad and pull black and white and this and that. There's a
Mm.
line in Star Wars, one of my favorite lines,
Yeah.
that at the end of episode 3, I believe it is, Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi are having their final battle. All right.
Mhm.
And he's speaking in a way that Anakin is speaking in a way that Obi-Wan Kenobi has recognized in his training. And Anakin says, well, if you're not with me, then you're against me. Right.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
Obi-Wan says something, most powerful line. He said, only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Mm. Oh,
He knew that he had turned, his
yeah.
soul had turned the
Yeah.
moment he started polarizing everything.
Mm.
He had a lack of perspective.
Wow.
When you polarize everything, your perspective is lacking and you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Wow. And you're giving me these paradigms right here, and I'm loving it because like with my being a foundation, growing up in Baptist, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
growing up in the old times, growing up in
Mm-hmm.
church and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear now when as an adult when I read the Bible and I'm seeking knowledge or wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking past the surface, right? When you say
Right.
good and evil, I that was once what I thought as well. It's like, well, the good and evil, that's all we got. But I love what you said about the environment,
Mm-hmm.
like the environment, man. That
Yeah.
control. When you think about scientists and labs and engineering, it's all about the environment. Is
It's
it
all about the
conducive
environment.
for
Yes.
growth?
Yes. That's it. That's
Man,
it.
come on now.
It changes everything. Then
Yes.
when you have that perspective, then everything about the way you describe things starts to change, and that's your narrative. And when your narrative changes, your lifestyle changes, and when your
Yeah.
lifestyle changes, you serve differently. And when you serve differently, you're rewarded differently, and you receive better, and you're a better giver, and all these other things
Yeah.
are coming into play because you're aligned with not polarizations, but you're
Hmm.
aligned with perspective, and you're aligned
Perspective.
with the point of origin. That means that whatever you're seeing, you're determining what you want to experience from it.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people try to decide how they perceive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They try to decide how they're gonna, like, if I sit with my buddy who's Muslim and
Mm-hmm.
I sit with him and I'm gonna try already to determine what he's gonna say and how I'm gonna interpret it,
Right,
then I
right.
set myself up for failure. But
Sure do.
perspective tells me to step on his side, from where he grew up. And
Absolutely.
he got to come back to South Carolina with me and look at how
Exactly.
I grew up, and
There
that
you
tells
go.
you, why I am who I am.
Absolutely. That's called drinking from one another's well.
Yeah.
And some of the native cultures, they have a custom where the men would come face to face with you. I learned this from a pastor friend of mine. And he said what they would do is they would put their nose on your nose and their
Hmm.
eyes on your eyelashes, and they'd put
Hmm.
their lips on your lips, and they'd blow into your mouth. And then you
Wow.
would blow back. And what that meant
Hmm.
is
Mm.
they're submitting to the knowledge you have, and you're submitting to the knowledge they have. So there's this proper exchange of information, and that's called community. That's how we, or that's called
Wow.
resilience. That's
Hmm.
that cycle coming back into play again.
Hmm.
That's them not even caring about pandemics and diseases and all this other things. No,
Right.
what's the human heart connection here, and how do we
Come on.
maximize that in this moment? How
Yeah.
do I get the best drink you got to give from your well, and I give
Right.
you the best drink I got to give from my well? And
Right.
then when we part ways, you've got a piece of me, and I've got a
Hmm.
piece of you to take back to our villages,
Come
and
on.
we reseed the land
Hmm.
again. Right.
Yeah.
So now it's
Receive it.
new seeds coming into play,
Gotta be
flowers that are
received.
growing that have never grown before, fruit that are being produced that have never been produced before,
Yeah.
conversations that are being had that were
Hmm.
not on the table until you expose yourself to something that wasn't polar, but it was
Mm.
perspective.
It wasn't polar, but it was perspective. You already got that on the shirt. But that's so dope, man. And I love what you're saying because you know the way everyone they're raised, it's that polar, it's that
Yep.
good, bad, fail, pass.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
everything we do is polarized,
Hmm.
black, white,
Right.
uh, gay, straight,
Mm.
whatever. Like it's
Right.
like we do
Right.
that, and now we put it into even with Christianity, it's Christian,
Mm.
sinner,
Right.
heaven, hell. It's like
Right.
if there's that's the only way we could perceive life.
Right.
So
And
how did you get into this perspective, this new perspective after coming from your background?
what's funny is that I always had this perspective as a child.
Mm,
Something wasn't right about anything I was listening to. I
yeah.
subscribed to it in action, but I did not have a heart connection to much of what I was watching happen in church when I was growing up,
Mm,
because I was way too much of an intellectual at a young age. Like I
yeah.
was a reader. I was the guy that didn't go outside to play just to read the dictionary and
Yeah.
understand
Wow.
what the words meant.
Hmm.
And I was that guy. That was me. I read the
Yeah.
Bible. I read it through and through. I studied it for what I could, but there were so many questions I had that
Hmm.
couldn't be answered. I knew that someone wasn't telling me something, or someone just didn't know how to answer my questions. Because
Mm,
usually, what the older folk will say, "Well, you don't question God, son. You just
yeah.
you read your Bible, you pray, but you don't question God, son."
Right.
They say it in that voice as some authoritative, but what it really is a
Hmm.
fear, because they don't have an answer for your question.
Mm,
And
yeah.
if they answer it truthfully, they'll
Hmm.
have to wipe off the table everything they taught.
Yeah.
Look at Creflo Dollar right now. When you answer the questions truthfully,
Hmm.
you have to recant what you thought was law. right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
all these things come into play. You start to change your conversation now,
Right.
and that's sort of like where I've been is as a child. I always was
Hmm.
curious about things. I took apart VCRs and put them back together.
Yeah.
I can fix a lawnmower. When I was in second grade, I knew how to
Yeah.
take it. My father taught me all this stuff.
Yeah.
I know how to fix things in general because I was curious enough to ask the proper questions. What
Hmm.
don't I know?
Yeah.
Because Socrates says it best: you don't know what you don't know.
You don't.
And that led me to being more curious. And
Yeah.
something happened. I started looking at the Hebrew and the Greek, and I read the Septuagint. I started reading the Torah and the
Hmm.
prophets, the Nevi'im, the writings, all those things. And I was like, wait a minute, something ain't right here.
Yeah.
They're saying this,
Uh-huh.
but this book is saying this, and then the civilization that's in the book is saying
Mm.
something even more complex,
Right.
because you got Abraham that the
Different.
Jews are calling a Jew, but he was
Hmm.
from Sumeria. He was from Ur the
Yes,
Chaldeans.
man.
So that
Yeah.
whole culture were stargazers. So what
Hmm.
did God do? He
Hmm.
takes Abraham out to the field and told him to do what? Look up into the heavens and look at the
Hmm.
stars. God seems to be okay with everybody being different.
Mm.
And God seems to be okay with cultures expressing themselves
Yeah.
authentically.
Mm.
So the Chaldean astronomers
Hmm.
stayed Chaldean astronomers all the way to the time of the birth of Yeshua, because
Hmm.
who showed up as the wise men
Right.
to give gifts? It was
Mm.
Chaldean astronomers. They were the
Yeah.
same people that didn't change for thousands of years. And
Yeah.
those things didn't make sense to me, because they were telling me that stuff was evil. They were
Hmm.
telling me that stuff was demonic. And I
Yeah.
couldn't see, why would a demon come to the house of Mary, Joseph, and the young man named Yeshua and
Hmm.
offer him gifts of gold, frankincense, of myrrh,
Mm.
according to the narrative, right?
Yeah.
So I had to consider that something was amiss here. I don't
Mm.
understand. So I just
Yeah.
dropped it. I put it all in a jar, and I put it
Hmm.
on a shelf, and I said, I'll pick that back up until I understand this stuff. So I
Yeah.
started, becoming more adept at understanding how civilizations work and how
Yeah.
cultures work. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, all these things, they have authentic expressions as how they express spirituality, how they
Hmm.
express all of the things that are healings and medicines and all this stuff. Culture
Yeah.
is different. And
Yeah.
if the creator, if this being that everyone is ascribing everything to is
Hmm.
so one-sided that everything has to look the same way, then
Hmm.
I'll choose a different path just to go against the grain.
Mm. Just to see what's like.
That's where I am. That's who I
Right.
am.
Right.
Just,
Come on.
just to go against the grain, just because this being says all of it has to be this way, I'm gonna go this way. And
Yeah.
something very powerful about that, I was in a mountain retreat, a men's retreat up in the mountains not long ago, or actually a
Hmm.
couple days ago, for last week. And I was walking down a path, and one of the paths were mowed very well. It was manicured very well, but a part of the path didn't get mowed, so it was
Yeah.
overgrown. And I said, well, which way should I go?
Hmm.
And it dawned on me that we have been trained to look at overgrowth as non-access points,
Mm.
right? We look at
Yeah.
places that seem overgrown. We are told that they're dangerous. You don't go in
Hmm.
there. Those that you don't know what's in there. You know
Yeah.
what's here, but you don't know what's in
Yeah.
there. Well, what if what's in there is exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
took the path that was already trodden for me, and I said, when I come on the way back, I'm going to take that overgrown path. And it's
Mm.
exactly what I did. I
Yeah.
went down, I came back up the trail, I started taking the
Hmm.
overgrown path, and it opened up to all of these trees and this beautiful creek. And I was
Yeah.
like, no one would see
Yeah.
this if they were afraid of the overgrowth,
Come on.
right? So it's
Hmm.
about perspective. Again, you got to be willing to see beyond what you're looking at, and
Yeah.
let your mind detach from pictures that of fear that it would place there, and decide
Mm.
to ask, what if what I'm going to run into is
Yeah.
the best thing that's ever happened to me?
Yeah.
And when you
Wow.
ask those kind of unbiased questions that are unbiased to your already predisposed fears, what
Hmm.
what a world can open up for you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that because and then like these pictures, these images that represent fear,
Hmm.
you think of a dark road, you think of like a big house. I forgot who it was, some Hollywood person. They were like, I had this big house and I wouldn't even go to the other side of the house because it was dark down
Dark.
there. And that's the thought of fear.
Yep.
But that darkness isn't even true.
It's not. It's
But it's
perceived.
true. It's true because we believe it,
Exactly.
but it's not true because we haven't experienced it, so we don't
Exactly.
know.
We don't know. And Seneca says, he's one of the Stoic philosophers. He says we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality.
Mm, man.
Most of what we suffer we've imagined it. It's
Yeah.
if you ask yourself when you find yourself in that fear base and that suffering and that angst, when you ask yourself
Mhm.
the question, did I imagine this or is this really happening?
Yeah.
And when you
You're
sit
right.
with that question honestly, 90 some odd percent of the time, you've
Hmm.
imagined it.
Yeah.
Your brain filled in some stuff to help you stay alive because that's
Yeah.
all it's there for. It's there to keep you alive long enough to reproduce yourself. The
Yeah.
question is, what are you reproducing when you reproduce? Fear?
Mm.
No, no. How about love? How about
Yeah.
freedom? How about liberty?
Mm.
How about resilience?
Yeah. I like that. Coming, the good soil, the good soil
Exactly.
that
Coming
produces
right back
good fruit.
around to it. There
You
you
know what
go. There you go. Yeah,
I
coming right back around
mean?
to it.
Yeah, because it's that perspective, that perspective, man. Like I love the way you talk, because like you talk about like taking stuff apart. I was taking apart my watch when I was a kid, so like I'm in your mind right now, and I'm like, yo, I get it. Like the
Yep.
curiosity
Yep.
is not bad. And I talked to a lot of my friends. I was born and raised in church and all that stuff.
Hmm.
My grandmother prayed. We was always in church. That whole
Me too.
thing. Been baptized and oil and
All
everything.
it
Speaking in tongues.
has
Do it.
been a
That experience that I had, and even just the experiences of prophecy and
yeah.
dreams and
Yeah.
other things that I experienced within the context of the life I lived. Right.
Right. Right.
I had to, when the pandemic happened, I had to step back, changing perspective.
Hmm.
And Stephen Covey, I think he says, seek first to understand, then to be
Be
understood,
understood.
right?
Right.
So I was trying to understand why I was who I was,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I realized that through my trauma, I would always you talked about this pressing the nose, what they did, the custom of
Hmm.
pressing the nose against the other, right?
Hmm.
And when you said that, I was like, oh my God, dude, when I was going through PTSD, I would go in my mirror in the bathroom and I would press my nose against my nose in the bathroom and look into my eyes. And I would look down. I felt like I could see inside of my soul
You
because the
can.
eyes are the gateway, right,
That's
to
the
the body.
window.
So I said, who are you?
Mm.
So what do you say to somebody like that, when they're living their lives
Hmm.
and with everything that we talked about, even with their background or whatever,
Hmm.
and they're searching for who they are?
Hmm.
What would you say at that point? Like, what does that mean? What is that meaning of searching for who am I?
I when I hear people saying, "I don't know who I am," it's not really a question of identity. It's really a question of where do I belong?
Yeah.
Because most
Mm,
people know who they are.
yeah.
They've just adopted a language system that doesn't support it. Now, identity is supported in nature, and nature
Hmm.
is not a system that can be described with words. It has to be felt. You have
Yeah.
to go outside and touch the trees and get bit by the ants and get stung by the wasps, right?
Hmm.
You got to experience nature. You can't
Yeah.
talk about it, right?
Hmm.
So like when someone's asking, it's like, well, you're asking because you're talking too much.
Yeah.
You need to
Need to
become, you
be.
need to feel in the moment, right? So like go outside. I send people outside. I was like, when's the
Hmm.
last time you went outside and put your feet in the dirt and
Mm.
just felt the planet,
Get rooted.
felt the earth, get rooted, get grounded, right? The trees are
Hmm.
doing it all the time. They're teaching us how to be still. The
Mm.
reason why you're misidentifying yourself is because you're not practicing stillness. Because when
Yeah.
you practice stillness, you'll see
Hmm.
yourself. It's that moment in the mirror, right? It's you
Hmm.
go in the mirror and you have to be still enough to look
Yeah.
into the window of your soul. Because
Hmm.
all mirrors, according to ancient traditions, are portals into your soul. So you
That's,
did an ancient practice
I guess
that
I
your
was,
church would have
yeah,
told you you need to be
I was,
delivered
yeah,
from,
for real.
right?
I was
But it
talking to,
worked.
it
It
did.
worked. It
Yeah,
brought you back to yourself because you
yeah,
finally found yourself belonging in a moment.
yeah,
You belong here because you're valuable. So when
yeah,
someone's asking me to help them find their purpose, I never answer that question.
right.
What I do is I ask them, what do you do when I tell you to close your eyes and you're doing something that's the greatest thing you've ever done before? Tell me what that thing is.
Yeah.
And not and 100% of the time, it has
Hmm.
something to do with serving someone else. We
Yeah,
are innately wired to serve one another.
yeah.
And if you can find what you want to do to serve and how that opens up, now that's where you start writing stuff down. But the question,
Hmm.
the idea is be in the service first. Be
Yeah.
in it. Like, just
Yeah.
feel what it feels like, the reward factor to get when buy someone's food at the grocery store and they don't know who you are, or you pay for the
Mhm.
person behind you in the fast food line, or you just
Yeah.
give money to somebody and you don't want to be identified about it. What does
Yeah.
that feel like to serve in that capacity? See,
Mm.
that's belonging. That's what
Yeah.
you're looking for. You don't need me to tell you who you are. You already know who you are.
Right.
You're just languaging it in a way that's limiting your ability to act on it.
Yeah.
Being who you are is
Mm.
being like a child. A child knows exactly who they are. They don't
Yeah.
even need to ask. Yeah, I'm Dave. I'm such and such, whatever the child's name, and I like to
Mhm.
do this, and they
Right.
go do it.
They go
Right.
do it. I like to
That's it.
paint.
They exactly, and they go and paint, and it can be the most abstract artistic thing ever, but they can
Right.
see so much meaning into it. So
Mhm.
much meaning. I
Mhm.
On this retreat I went on, I did
Yeah.
something called soul painting. I've
Mhm.
never finger painted a day in my life.
Yeah.
Never done it.
Yeah.
And they gave me a canvas. She put on some meditation music, and at this event, I
Mhm.
blindfolded myself, and in my
Mm.
mind, or adult mind, I
Yeah.
had all the colors lined up. I had already memorized the color wheel that I had put on my
Mm.
plate. I said,
Yeah.
"This is what I'm going to draw. I've already got this down pat. I'm going to blow these guys out of the water. They don't
Yeah.
even know what they're up against here." I
Yeah.
close my eyes, and here I am memorizing, and I'm peeking and stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
Trying to make sure I get the right colors. And then I said, "No, I need to let go.
Mm.
I need to let go of Nathaniel, the Nathaniel that I've become,
Yeah.
the well put together Nathaniel, and I need to be
Mhm.
that child in this moment.
Yeah.
That's the thing in me that's never got its expression because of traumatic
Mm.
experiences."
Yeah.
And I opened up to it. And
Yeah.
I just let my inner child, my 5-year-old child, took my hand. I can feel it. It
Yeah.
literally took my hand and started
Wow.
making the movements on the canvas. Now,
Yeah.
in my mind, the child is drawing what I want.
Right.
But that's not what came out.
Yeah.
What came out on the page was this abstract spatter of paint and swirls and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I looked at it and I turned the canvas and I was able to see into the painting.
Mm.
And all of the levels started doing this, where I can see depth and I can see imagery, and everything
Yeah.
started to pop out at me. And I
Wow.
was like, only a 5-year-old could see this deep into something like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to change that level of
Yeah.
perspective, the perspective of a
Come on.
child.
Of a child.
A
I
perspective of a
I
child is
love
a
it.
perspective of belonging, right? A
Right.
child knows where it belongs all the
Right.
time. It belongs in mommy's arms. It belongs in
Yeah.
grandpa's lap. It belongs at home. It belongs outside. Every
Yeah.
place it is, it's belonging. The ancient African proverb is, wherever your feet are, that's where you are.
Mhm.
That's where you serve.
Yeah. As my grandma would say, the church folks say, was it having faith like a childlike
Yep.
faith,
Childlike
believing
faith.
in the possibilities. And like I was telling my wife, like there was, this conflict that I have,
Mm,
and it was so crazy. Like I had a friend of mine who uh sent me a voice clip today and was just like, she was praying and
mm,
God revealed some things to her for me,
mm,
and,
mhm,
and at first, when I used to be privy to these things, I was like, nah, that's weird, that's crazy. But then when they were like real, I was like, oh my God, like, okay. But
mhm,
last night, Nathaniel, like I'm listening to you talk, and I'm like, I'm in a season of my life where I'm like, okay, I'm shifting my perspective
mhm.
to figure out why I am who I am. Why
Yep.
am I a Christian? Why am I Alan Simmons, this guy?
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask myself, because if I die, I never want to die not knowing who I truly am and why
Right.
I am who I am.
Right.
Um, but it was the fact that while while I have been searching for who I am, I've also kind of detached from the idea of God.
Mhm.
And it was weird for me as a Christian to be going through this phase. So when my friend was telling me what she heard, I agreed with it because I've detached from my source that I was
Mhm.
connected to. I'm telling you, Nathaniel, I used to walk on campus and like my source, God, would give me a word. And I
Mhm.
would meet random people, and here I am on campus praying for people. I'm at parties, I'm smoking weed, I'm chilling, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
God's like, speak to this person. I speak to this person, and I'm like, their whole life unravels before my eyes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've never put my religious standpoint on it because I was not clean. I
Mhm.
was
Mm.
this muddy
Mhm.
sinner who
Mhm.
God was speaking to. So that told me something that a
Mhm.
lot of people didn't probably still don't agree with, is
Mm.
that God loves you in your mess.
Man, let me tell you something. God, here's the thing. God loves,
Right, God loves.
period.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
There are no other conditions. Anything after describing why you're loved is a
Mm.
condition. And if
Mm.
there's a condition on that, it's not as authentic as it ought to be.
Yeah.
Unconditional love actually stands on its own.
Hmm.
God loves, or God
God is
is
love.
love.
God
Period.
is love.
Done. It's a
Period.
wrap. Yeah,
Period.
not because
Right.
all of those are prepositional phrases, right? So
Yeah.
anytime you have a prepositional phrase, you're
Yeah.
talking about a preposition. That means God loves because this. That's called a condition, and
Mm.
you're gonna create that narrative in your mind,
Right.
and then you're gonna believe that, oh, I'm a sinner now because
Mm-hmm.
I did something that I deem as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
In some other culture, it's the way of life. So
Mm.
are they sinners? Right. So
Yeah.
now you got to play around with paradigms. So you
Yeah.
got to let some stuff go. You got to let go of
Mm-hmm.
those judgments, and
Yeah.
become a friend to the inner you, that inner child, like you said, that
Yeah.
inner voice, that guide that's in there,
Mm-hmm.
that's talking to you. So I
Yeah.
don't care what semantics you want to add to that. You want to say my guides, you want to say my higher self, you want to say
Mm-hmm.
Holy Spirit, you want to say
Yeah.
spirit. I will tell you, I'm sorry if your audience does not agree, but they're all
No,
the
speak the
same.
truth, brother.
They're all the same. It's just semantics. I
Mm.
promise you, it's just
Yeah.
semantics. The If you studied where Yeshua went,
Mm-hmm.
you'd probably reread the New Testament in a whole different light, because
Yeah.
he spent 20 years in Egypt and
Mm.
nobody talks about it. He
Nobody's talking.
studied in the same mystery schools that were raised during the temple priest days, the same
Mm.
ones that taught. And if you take priestly documents from ancient Egypt and overlay them over what Yeshua taught, you will have the exact same message
Yeah.
5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 years before he ever showed up.
Yeah.
There's evidence of him being in the Tibetan monks' monasteries. They
Mm-hmm.
have writings of it. There's evidence of him learning about Reiki healing when he
Mm-hmm.
traveled to India with his uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. He was a
Yeah.
tin miner and he had a passport to be at any place he wanted to go. And he traveled all over the world and he
Mm.
took the boy with him. There's
Yeah.
evidence of this stuff. So if you think that there's just this one way things can be
Mm-hmm.
interpreted, I'm sorry to tell you, actually, I'm
Yeah.
not sorry. Forgive me from bursting your
Yeah.
bubble, but it's not that way. It's not that black and white. And
Yeah.
the reason why most people are in the dark is because they believe it's that polar. It's not
Mm.
that polar. Yeshua came as a man with experience, with
Mm.
cultural experience. He can
Mm.
speak to Essenes. He can speak to Muslims. It didn't matter what your religion was at that day. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't care. He wanted to meet the person at the heart. That's
Mm.
it.
Come on, man. And I love that. And my I would tell people, like, whenever I would go quote unquote evangelism, I would never like to go to like be like, hey, come to church. I
Right.
would always like to go to connect with the person, like,
Yeah.
because that's where I was when I was broken, when I was hurt. I
Hmm.
had people that were trying to connect with me, my heart,
There you go.
because that's where the damage is. It's
There you
not
go.
damage. My damage isn't the fact that I'm not saved or whatever it is. My
Right.
damage is because I've been through trauma, and
Hmm.
people always try to drag people past their trauma to the
Right.
altar before addressing the trauma. So
That's powerful. That's
yeah,
a powerful point.
I
And
appreciate it, man.
they believe you can sprinkle some Jesus on it and everything is going to
Hmm.
be all right. And that's
Yeah.
not the way it works, because people who are going to the altar are committing suicide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got people who've been in church
Mm-hmm.
for 40, 50 years and they're mentally ill because they've
Yeah.
just been atrophying for the last 40, 50 years. No one dealing with the real issues.
Yeah.
PTSD, I know all about it. Night
Yeah.
terrors for 38 years.
Yeah. Man. Man.
I've been having night terrors since I was in kindergarten.
Man.
I've got trauma.
Yeah.
I've been not being able to sleep or being afraid to go to sleep. I changed my sleep patterns
Mm.
so that, because I knew when the terrors would hit. I
Yeah.
changed my sleep patterns so that I would only sleep within a certain amount of hours and I'd be up and I'd never have to experience them.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I know the PTSD
Yeah.
form of living. Always like,
Mm-hmm.
always looking over your shoulder, and I'm always looking for tools to protect me. Right,
Mm-hmm.
looking for, like, I took martial arts and all these other things, and
Yeah.
I would serve
Mm.
with those skill sets to help people around me, but I really
Right.
took it to keep people off me. Like, I don't
Mm.
get too close to me, because people
Yeah.
getting close to me is what traumatized me.
Yeah.
And to go into that,
Yeah. I was gonna say, go ahead and.
at 8 or 9 years old, I was sexually molested by a family member,
Mm.
and that caused me to lose a sense of belonging. And when a sense of belonging is lost in a child, this is where the prison pipeline is the only way to go in some cases,
Yeah.
because there aren't a lot of men that have experienced that get out
Hmm.
of it, either alive or with their mental health intact.
Yeah.
And having been that young, not having anywhere to go, I couldn't tell my parents, I couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Went all through school being teased because I didn't have sex with female with any of the girls and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I just didn't want to. I didn't want them to touch me.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with a female in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I got to the age of being able to make sexual decisions, then
Hmm.
of course I became like, I was non-committed. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll do this with you, but it's going to be, I'm not going to be emotionally attached,
Right.
because my first experience became a
Mm.
premature emotional attachment.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
was not at the space in my life where I can handle that sort of unlocking of that Pandora's box of emotions.
Right.
So I went through life as a grown man, emoting and acting internally like an
Mm.
8-year-old child,
Mm.
having never integrated myself back with that child so maturity can come into
Mm.
place.
Yeah.
So I took some time to do some anger management help, because I was very, very volatile, like quick tempered. So I don't like people around me. I stayed to myself.
Yeah.
I would blow up at the drop of a hat, punching through walls and throwing stuff
Mm.
and all kinds of stupid stuff like that. Just
Hmm.
childish tantrums, right? Stuff
Yeah.
that I would do. And then I decided to get some help with anger management back in, like, I think it was like 2014, or between 14 and 16,
Yeah.
2015 or 16. Decided to get some help with the anger, because I had mastered being able to suppress it,
Hmm.
but I wasn't a master of controlling how to release it. See, we're
Yeah.
really good at pressing things down, but we don't know how to let things go, right?
Come
So I
on.
just had this overwhelming clogged well, right? So
Yeah.
things is overflowing. There's no place to get a drink from,
Yeah.
because I've got all the stuff on top of the water, and it's contaminating
Hmm.
what I really have to give to people.
Mm.
And so, like, the anger was it's a tool, but it was being misused and misdirected. It
Mm.
should have been an indication that there's an action step I need to take to
Mm.
initiate a change that I'm looking to see. But that's not how I knew to understand it. So
Yeah.
when I went through anger management, the first thing that came up is the child sexual
Yeah.
trauma that I had. And I realized that was controlling a lot of why I wasn't experiencing life in the fullest way that I wanted to. So I
Hmm.
dealt with it the best I knew how.
Yeah.
And for a few years, or for that time, short period of time, I did the anger management thing. I got the tools, and then things just wasn't going right for me. I was like, I'm done. I'm just going
Yeah.
to go back in my shell. Let me get deep into myself again.
Mm.
And I started uncovering things about me
Hmm.
that were eye opening. Oh, this is a gift. I'm
Yeah.
misusing this as a gift. And once I got to a place where I was ready, I sat down one day
Hmm.
on my recliner.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, something is just pulling me to connect in a different way.
Hmm.
I had some meditation music going on my headphones,
Yeah.
and I opened up my YouTube app, which I usually don't do at that time of the day, because I think I was studying for something, for a test at the time, and I just opened up my YouTube app, tried to take me a brain break, and
Hmm.
this guided meditation thing came up on my YouTube feed. So I
Yeah.
clicked on it, and it was talking about people who have this sense of not belonging and this sense of not being enough.
Hmm.
I was like,
Wow.
I don't know that I feel that way. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Master.
rationalizing, right? Like, yeah, this ain't me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm too tough for that. And
Yeah.
then I have this warm hug feeling in my heart center that's sort
Mm.
of like beckoning me, say, Nathaniel, you might want to lean in here.
Yeah.
So I leaned in for a moment, and I closed my eyes. And the
Mm.
moment I closed my eyes, Alan,
Yeah.
before me was a doorway. The door opened, and there was a spiraling stairwell that was going down,
Hmm.
and I was being invited to walk downstairs. It was really dark. There was nothing down there, but I took a chance.
Yeah.
I walked deep into this stairwell, and when I got to the bottom of the stairs, another door appeared, and I opened the door, and I'm standing in front of my house in South
Mhm.
Carolina
Yeah.
in the 1980s, late
Wow.
1980s. I stepped back in time,
Yeah.
and I go
Mm.
into the house, and the house is completely abandoned. There's no one there. The furniture is
Mhm.
gone, and I hear a whimper in one of the back rooms, which was my room.
Yeah.
And I walk in the room, and there is this 8, 9-year-old kid sitting on the bed with his face in his palms, and
Yeah.
he's crying because he's all alone. He's sitting on an old rusty box spring. The
Wow.
room looks just the way it did, when I was a kid, except the furniture is gone, and
Yeah.
there's no curtains on the window, so there's light shining in, but there's no one there. He's by himself. And I
Mm.
go over, I tap him. He said, "What's going on, man? What you doing here by yourself?" And he looks up, and it's me. I look
Mm.
right into my child's self, my face,
Yeah.
and I thought, okay, let me see what's going on here. And he was very
Right.
timid. He was very, look, don't get close to me. Very, very, like kind of like a scared puppy. It'll
Yeah.
bite you just because, not because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't like you, but just it
Because
doesn't
it's scared.
trust you. All
Yeah.
right. So I worked to gaining this inner child's
Mm.
trust for a moment.
Yeah.
Right. It took me a moment to let the child know that there was love here.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he looked up at me, grabbed me by the hand, and we walked out the house, out the door, off the front porch, and then back into the street. And
Yeah.
I turned around to him. Now, there was nothing there at the time. I turned around and I said, "Look, you're never coming back here again."
Mm.
And I said, "I just want to let you know you're never
Yeah.
coming back here again."
Yeah.
The moment I said that, the door appears. We walk
Mm-hmm.
through the door, and now the same spiraling stairwell that was leading me deep was now leading me in ascension. It
Come
was
on,
only going one way.
man.
So I went up the stairwell. I come
Yeah.
out the door. This all happened in this moment. I come
Yeah.
out the door,
Communication.
and now I'm standing in my new home. This is the home we just built 3.5 years ago. I'm
Yeah.
standing in front of my home now. I just went
Mm-hmm.
back in time. I time traveled
Mm-hmm.
to grab my 8-year old self to bring him back
Yeah.
into the
Mm.
present moment.
Come
Right.
on now.
So I bring the child, and we're holding hands, and I telepathically
Yeah.
walk the child into every room of the house. Said,
Mm-hmm.
this is me and my wife's room. This is our bathroom, such and such. Got him
Mm.
acquainted with the lay of the land. This is where
Yeah.
all the toys are. This is my son David. This is
Yeah.
all the things. Everything happened. And
Yeah.
the moment the child felt the sense, and I got this overwhelming sense of comfort, like,
Mm.
oh, we can breathe now. And the
Yeah.
child looks up at me,
Mm.
grabs me by the hand really tightly, and then walks inside my body.
Oh
And this
wow.
this full integration thing happened, where,
Dang.
where I had separated, because that was the trauma. The trauma
Yeah.
takes your breath away, but
Yeah.
it separates you from the moment. Right.
Right.
So you're
Mm-hmm.
detached from a moment where there
Yeah.
could have been healing and congruency. Now
Yeah.
you're misaligned. So the
Mm-hmm.
alignment factor comes back, where the congruency comes
Mm.
back in integration. So now the child me and the
Um,
and the adult me are back together again. The marriage has happened. The matrimony of soul and spirit
right.
are happening in the same space. And it went from me reacting to things like an 8-year old child
Mm.
to some friends coming over one day. And he said, you've talked more than you ever have. I've ever heard you in the last 10 years I've known you. And he said, you sound like an adolescent male. Like, you sound like you're growing up. And I
Yeah.
said, you don't understand how powerful that is to me,
Wow.
to know that just a few months ago, I was only 8 years old emotionally. And I'm
Mm.
doing this scientific analyzation thing going on. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I went from 8 year olds old to like a few weeks now. You're
Yeah.
telling me I'm like a late teenager. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's
Mm.
expansion. That's
That's
exponential
growth.
growth. When
Yeah.
you do the deep work, ladies
Mm.
and gentlemen, when you're willing to look at your traumatic experiences from a perspective of love and trust, and befriending those moments that were the hardest ones you've ever had in your life, I
Mm.
promise you, the you that comes out of them is not the same that goes into them.
Mm.
So that's the thing that sort of solidified the
Yeah.
mission. Like, there is healing out here, and I
Yeah.
didn't have to go to someone's church, and I didn't have to go to someone's altar or a prayer line or anything else. Nobody had to spit on me and slap me with oil and all this stuff. I took a moment to be still and listen to
Yeah.
the inner voice, because Yeshua says that the well comes from out of your belly is
Mm.
the living waters. That's where
Mm.
it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The breath is in you. The breath of creator is in you. That's why they call it
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. The word
Mm.
spire is the word breath.
Yeah.
Ritual is what you
Mm.
do with it. So your spire
Mm.
ritual is what you do with your breathing with intention.
Mm.
So how are you intending to breathe? Are you
Yeah.
intending to breathe like an ill person? Then illness is your reward. If you're
Mm.
intending to breathe like someone who really wants to get to the nitty gritty as to why you are the way you are, I
Yeah.
can promise you that you will find that the moment you take a deep breath. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I did. A
Yeah.
deep breath will change your perspective.
Come on.
Anybody who's angry, that's irate, you stop them in their tracks and you said, I want you to pay attention to your breathing. They're
Mm-hmm.
no longer focused on what they're angry about. Their
Yeah.
perspective has changed. It went from external to now introspective.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
That's
Because
the
you're
work.
not acting under the influence.
That's
You
exactly.
know?
You've matured, right? Maturity
Yeah.
is simply this. It's expanding the gap between the initiation of a thing and the action of a thing.
Yeah.
Thought and action. When you expand the gap between
Mm.
impulse and action, you're practicing maturity.
Yeah. Man. So Nathaniel, man, come on now. So You gave me a lot to work with, so you gave me a lot to work.
Yo,
I got a whole pan over here. I got a pan over here. What do I want to cook right now? But first and foremost, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability. I know like going on different podcasts
yeah,
and like sharing your story is it could be repetitive, but I just want to let you know, just thank you so much for your
absolutely.
vulnerability because you don't have to be vulnerable.
Right.
You
I
could
get to
just
be
be
though.
yeah, so like you say you get to be.
I get to be though.
You get to be. You
That's
get
the
to
be
be. Yeah, that's the
that's the
beauty.
gratitude beauty right
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. The more the day you wake up, I mean, I look at days differently since the trauma, right? And like, with your story, man, I'm like paralleling with you. So when you talk about the doors and the spiral stairs, I'm with you because I understand the scope of being able to step out of just this physical, right?
Uh-huh.
My VA speech therapist
Mhm.
from the veteran hospital, we do a virtual call
Mhm.
every other week and stuff, and she has me meditating now, right? She's like, Alan, with your PTSD and with just I have a thousand things going on in my
Yeah.
mind, and I'm stressed, and then I do, I find myself in a place when the environment is not conducive for my own growth.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
she was like, she took me in to this little meditation. She was like, so I was right here on this couch, and she's like, sit down with your feet flat and position and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And all of this is important to the whole meditation because
It
you
is.
can't even have distracting things around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and last night, um, I was sitting in my garage and like I had the fan on because it was hot. I
Mhm.
had the fan
Mhm.
on, and I was like, I put my laptop. I just did the live. I created the live for us,
Mhm.
and I did the
Mhm.
flyer, and I was just I did all of that,
Mhm.
and I closed my laptop, and I was like, all right, Alan, breathe. Like what you were saying, I was like, breathe, and I literally, Nathaniel, I was like, big breath and I could really feel when you breathe, you start to release things. Now, crazy thing is during deliverance services, right? So this is crazy. So during deliverance services, it is about the breath.
It is about the breath.
It is about releasing,
It's about
right?
really,
So
yes.
so and you spoke about, God breathing into
Mhm.
into us, right?
Mhm.
And as I look at the world and people,
Mhm.
and I step out from my perspective, and I get into this middle perspective of being a baby who was born with other babies who were born who learned something
Mhm.
and then decided on from what they learned on what they wanted to do with their life.
Right.
Like so I look at life from that and I say, you know what? Trump was like me.
Mhm.
Obama was like me. Martin Luther
Mhm.
King was like me. They were once a baby who
Yep.
had to grow up, and they received information, and based on that information, they decided on how they wanted to live. So,
Absolutely.
Alan, how do you want to live
There
with
you
the
go.
information you have?
There you go. Yeah,
So
that's a responsibility question, and that's
yeah.
I told my son today, he's 7, he'll be 8 in September. I said, son, look,
Mm,
you being here in this day and time, you being born, it actually means that you have something that you're responsible for,
mm,
and you got to know what that thing is. You'll
yeah.
find out how to articulate it in due time, but understand that you're not here just because it's a man's seed
Yeah.
interacted with the seed of a woman. You're
Mm,
here because resilience is at play. it's
yeah.
it's a cellular thing. Resilience is cellular.
Mm-hmm,
You look at how the seed of a man actually gets into the ovary of a
mm,
woman, and you'll think, oh my gosh, how in the world is this even possible?
yeah.
Like it's the lone survivor that makes it.
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm,
it's it's like 1 out of 4 billion. Like it's one of those
mm-hmm.
chances. Like this is intentional. This is
Right.
very intentional. When you peel back the layers, like, wait a minute, everything seems to be fitting together just the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm,
I'm here because there was a
mm-hmm.
condition set.
A condition.
See, that's okay to have
Yeah.
a prepositional phrase
Yeah.
right there, because
Right there.
I'm here because, and
Right.
then I get to add what the preposition is.
Yeah.
We're here to say things. We're here
Mm,
to give voice to
yeah.
what's inaudible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things just stay in the ether, because
Yeah.
everything comes, interestingly enough, everything comes through water. You go back and read the creation story. It says, let the waters bring forth, or
Yep.
let the
Water
life
spring, the
forms.
springs of water.
Exactly. So
Yep.
like when the oceans came, when the oceans were separated and the seas were separated, what did it say?
Yeah.
Let the waters bring forth fish of the sea
Mm-hmm.
and fowl of the air.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
says that
Everything came from
everything came
the
from
water.
water, from Mayim. It's called the
This.
Shamayim. It's the character of the water to keep creating things.
Mm,
Without it, if we took all the water out of our atmosphere, there would be
yeah.
no life on this
There would
planet.
be nothing.
Everything we see in nature is water embracing resistance.
Yeah.
Everything is water in
Mm.
form. Fruit
Wow.
is what? 70, 80% water. Your
Yeah.
body is 80% water. A tree, you take all the water of it out of it and it's light
Hmm.
as a feather. You can move it
Yeah.
all around. It's because
Yeah.
the water is what gives it weight. And that's the
Mm.
word for glory in the
Yeah.
Bible. The Bible
Mm.
word for glory is kavod, which means to be weighty, to be heavy. And it's
Mm.
what water is
Yeah.
really heavy when it's added to your atmosphere. And
Yeah.
that's what sustains life. And it
Yeah.
gives us a sense of purpose and belonging.
Yeah. Come on now. Come on now. Preach it. See, and that's what I love. Like when you could see, I love the way you think. Like even if you don't identify as a Christian, like I know like just having the ability to use knowledge and to say, you know what, well there's a parallel here that you could take some information here
Mhm.
and bring meaning to it.
Yeah.
It said the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the earth, and it was
of
like the void,
of
it
the
was void.
waters.
Yeah,
Right.
the
It's a
waters, right?
yeah,
It
the
was the
waters,
waters,
right? It was
right?
the spirit. That word spirit there's the word
Hmm.
ruach, and it means wind. The
The wind,
wind blew
like the
over the
breath, right?
water.
Like
Exactly.
the breath,
It's
right? The
all
spirit, the breath.
that's it.
So
It's
like, and that's what I say. Like, so when we have this hate, when we induce trauma on people, like it unfortunately happened to you,
Mhm.
and I had a babysitter that had me suck her breast as when I was a little boy, and I just remembered it a couple of years, like 2 years ago.
Wow.
I just
Wow.
remembered that trauma when I was
Wow.
sitting down reflecting. That
Wow.
trauma came back to me. You
Wow.
were on another interview, and the guy said his trauma came back to him.
Mhm.
Later he was in the military.
Mhm.
But he said his trauma came back to him. So like, I think that it is. I'm not mad at them. Like I'm not
Right.
mad at my parents for their decisions or whatever it is. Like you can't be mad at people because of how they responded to their environment.
Absolutely not. You sure can't. You
You
sure
know,
can't. Because
because
they're
then you
just
go from
events.
that good or bad thing. It's like
There you
I'm
go.
mad
They're
now because they were good or bad.
right. They're just events.
Yeah.
When I started to look at the event as just that, it's an event. I can get whatever meaning from it that I want,
Mm,
depending on the perspective I want to look at it from. I don't
yeah.
know if anybody's ever seen the movie Encanto. It's a Disney film. It's called Encanto. It's based out
Hmm.
of the Mayan culture. It's very
Yeah.
Mexico Mesoamerican culture. And in the movie, there's a scene, there's a prophecy that's issued over this young girl's over
Hmm.
this household, and in this household, and this prophecy is basically seems to be like a bit destructive.
Yeah.
When everybody heard it, they interpreted it as destructive. But the
Mm.
girl went to seek out the origin of where the prophecy came from this
Ooh.
individual in their family named Bruno. And she found herself in this deep cave underneath the
Yeah.
home, in the place where this individual had found its residence, and
Hmm.
found this pane of glass that had been cracked in several places that was
Yeah.
glowing underneath the house. She fit it all
Mm.
together, and she saw the prophecy everybody else was saying, and
Mm.
she just got scared and dropped it. She never looked at it any differently. But
Wow.
then, as the movie goes on, she
Hmm.
looks at the portrait after talking to the oracle of the prophecy, and
Hmm.
she turns the canvas ever so slightly,
Mm.
and what was told as destruction and all these things, she
Hmm.
saw everything reconciled, everything
Mm.
put back in its proper place, and
Yeah.
even better. And
Mm.
when that new perspective came to the
Yeah.
page, she started acting out of the
Mm.
new perspective of the same prophecy.
Mm. Yeah.
It
Wow.
wasn't a one-way street. It
Yeah.
had multiple facets, but
Hmm.
people aren't willing to take the events that are traumatic in their lives and
Hmm.
turn them on their head. Don't
Mm.
move. Stay exactly where you are. Take the event and just turn it ever so slightly to see how
Mm.
light hits it. Because
Yeah.
every time you turn a diamond to see how light hits it, you see the authenticity of the diamond. You
Mm.
don't see whether it's good or bad. You just see how
Mm.
authentic it is, right? You start
That's
to see how
mm.
it lusters, how it shines, how it
Yeah.
reflects light, how it
Hmm.
refracts light, right? You're
Refract
looking for
light.
all
Yeah.
of those qualities, because that's telling you that this thing has endured a hell of a lot of pressure to be able to
Hmm.
be this resilient, to be this valuable to me. So the
Yeah.
more you turn the event around, whatever traumatic experience it is, the more valuable you get when you
Hmm.
keep looking at the event
Come
in
on.
different facets. Keep
Yeah.
turning it around, because it keeps showing you something different. And it
Yeah.
will ever be a prophetic voice to you. It will
Yeah.
always be showing you something different about who you are, about the
Mm.
child that's in you, about the
Yeah.
creativity that's in you, about the purpose and the sense of belonging you can have, if you'll
Hmm.
be willing to let go of the old story, right?
Mm.
Change your perspective, change your story. You
Yeah.
change your story, your life will change.
Come on.
Bottom line.
Come on. I like that. You change your perspective. You changed the story. You know, like that's so powerful because we victimize ourselves in our own story because
Yep.
people identify us
Yep.
by what we've been through.
Yep.
Right. So they
Yep.
say, oh, you were molested. So now you're just this person that was molested, and
That's
that's
it.
your story. You're
Yep.
this PTSD veteran. So now you're this no, that's not who I am. That's what I went through.
That's what exactly.
That's what I
Exactly.
went through.
That's
So
what
detaching
exactly.
ourselves from those titles,
Yeah.
and I think it's powerful because that tells us like, okay, I don't know everything. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know how to respond all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the comfortable thing with a lot of people to use faith is comfortable because now you're taking the pressure off of you
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you're giving it to God,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
God has given this task to you
Mm-hmm.
to use. This is your life. He even gave us power. He said dominion over the air, the
Yeah.
things in the
It's just
air, right?
yeah,
Over the land.
yeah, and that particular dominion and subdue,
Yeah.
those are both words that are rooted in discovery.
Mm,
It suggests in the Hebrew that you should be asking more questions,
mm.
not making more assumptions.
Not making more assumptions. And that's what people try to do though. Like we make the assumptions even in arguments. We're like, well, that if you think somebody's intentions are to harm you,
Hmm.
then even when they talk to you,
Yep,
you're on defense
that's it.
already because you're prepared to receive that offense.
Yep,
And we all like we're humans, and I feel like we got to give each other grace. We have to give ourselves a whole lot of grace.
right.
And I tell people this all the time. I'm like my favorite verse is it's better to fall into the hands of God than to fall into the hands of man.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's so powerful because man will turn God on you,
Hmm. Yeah, they'll
but
weaponize God, man. Yeah,
God will never turn man on you.
no, no,
Right. So
no,
like in the
absolutely.
context of because I understand that my context of belief isn't my friends, my Muslim friends, or my
Hmm.
Buddhist friends, or my atheist friends. That's not their context of belief. That's not their perspective or
Hmm.
reality.
Right,
Because
right.
the same way I was over in Afghanistan watching these people practice their beliefs, and when I
Hmm.
was in Iraq watching them practice their beliefs, they did not grow up in Somerville, South Carolina.
No,
You
no,
know what I mean?
they
you
didn't go
gotta
up.
you
They didn't
gotta
grow
you
up in the
gotta
Baptist
accept that
church,
they
right? You
didn't
got it.
grow up.
No, that's not their origin, and that
Yeah.
was where I had to let go of my paradigm a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, not a lot, a little bit. I let it go completely because it walls you off from true experience of one another. We're here to experience one another.
Yeah.
That I mean, like you don't get out of this life without having been a part of someone's story.
Mhm.
Whether you were the best part or not, it should be your pleasure to have served.
Yeah.
That's gratitude. That gratitude is being able to look a person in their eyes and know that you were not so much a great part of their story and
Hmm.
say, you know what? I wasn't always the best part of your story.
Right.
But you realize that who you are and what you came to do, this was a necessary event in your life because it made you
Mhm.
grow, it made the other person grow. But
Yeah.
you ought to just look at everything you would go through, everything you experience, and just say, it's a pleasure to serve.
It's a pleasure to serve.
Whether it was
Hmm.
good or bad,
Yeah.
Eh, that doesn't
Whether it
set
was good
well.
or bad, but I
What
mean,
right?
what is
Is it
good or
like so?
bad?
Looking at it as if it was pleasant or unpleasant, whatever those polarizations are,
Yeah.
the perspective is I'm here to serve,
Yeah.
and I won't always make choices that are going to be the best for myself. I won't always make choices that are going to be the best for my family, for people
Mhm.
that I'm involved in. I won't always treat people the way I would have liked to in the moment.
Yeah.
However, whatever
Mm.
happened, it's amor fati. It means the fate of
Mm.
things. I love it. I love how things will unfold without my
Mm.
control. And without controlling it, this was the experience. So if
Yeah.
this was experienced, this must have been ordained. And
Yeah.
however unpleasant it is, I'm happy to serve.
Happy to serve. Come on.
Because without me being here serving in that capacity, you don't have this part in your story.
Mm.
That's
You know,
perspective.
that and I love that because when you said that I literally thought about a tree,
Hmm.
and talking about a tree, this whole process of being a seed and thinking about the tree doesn't dictate the storms, and when how it will storm or how bad it will storm, the tree can't dictate that,
Nope.
but the tree is rooted.
It's
The
rooted.
tree has to know where it stands, where it is.
Exactly.
you know
The tree
um and
doesn't
they
care about storms.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't
And
care.
then the deeper the roots, the taller the tree, the
Yeah.
stronger the tree.
Yeah.
So I think just being grounded and
Hmm.
understanding, who you are is very important. And I can see that in your story, like that identity crisis. I call it like an identity crisis because,
Yeah.
when you went back down those stairs, right, when you were meditating,
Mhm.
I could see it. Like, I was like, okay, so he's going, he sees this little boy. Okay, he has this trauma at a young age, and that little boy was left there.
Yep.
And I tell people, I feel like I sound crazy when I talk about my story, but now hearing you, I understand I'm not crazy because
No.
I tell people like I left that Allen that was in an RPG explosion, or that he died.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
I mean, he was there. He laid in Afghanistan,
Mhm.
and another person got up,
Yep.
and that person was filled with fear
Mhm.
and trauma and
Mhm.
all of these other things. Now,
Yeah.
my environment was now in me. I tell people all the time, if your environment, especially if you're in a boat, and that environment gets inside of you, you're gonna sink.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
That's
but
true.
anyway,
That's facts. That's facts, man. That's facts. If the
yeah,
environment gets in you, you'll
yeah,
sink. The
yeah, you'll
key is
sink.
staying lightness of being and staying free from those environmental interactions and
Yeah,
impedances that will definitely free you to be truly express who you truly are.
yeah. Facts, man. And I'm glad that you have chosen to express who you truly are
Oh,
unapologetically. And
absolutely.
even as a Christian guy, I love meeting people who have been Christians and now they have different perspectives,
Hmm.
who are still Christians and they have the maybe the old time perspectives, and
Yeah.
then the people who aren't even associated, never heard of what it is. Because I'm a man of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
I want wisdom, and I know that is why I was put here. I was put
Hmm.
here to gain wisdom and to be a bridge for
Hmm.
people to communicate. You know
There
what I
you go.
mean? Like,
There
because
you go.
communication is only effective as if we have some empathy and compassion.
Understanding, exactly.
You
Empathy and
know?
compassion are two offsets of understanding. And
Yeah.
you can talk till you're blue in the face, but if nobody understands and has a way to connect with you, then all you did was put a bunch of empty words out in the air. It's
Facts. Facts. You don't want
it's
to be doing
beautiful.
that. You don't want to be
Nah, hell no.
an empty tree. An empty tree.
Yeah, just
But
an empty
Brendan,
tree.
I've been through trauma too. It's okay for all of us to express how we feel. Facts. That
Facts.
is a fact, man.
Absolute
So
facts.
if you guys have questions for Nathaniel, please put them up. Well, I have two more questions that I want to ask him. I know it's 8:11. I'm sorry, bro. I
There you go. You
keep
good.
you over. But I saw your other interviews and I was like, man, I wish they would just let him talk. I wish they, like, because as an interviewer, on the podcast, I've learned I'm a talker,
Yeah.
but when over the past 3 years, I've learned to listen,
Hmm.
and I'm like, what I have to say when I'm podcasting is not I could add my little things, but my guests are the focus, and what they have to say
Absolutely.
is so important.
Absolutely.
So like
That's good.
when people come on here, I just want them to be able to express themselves and to share their wisdom and their
Mm,
thought.
yeah.
Because purpose, behind purpose is our thought. What
Hmm.
you think about is what you're going to be purposed to do. Whether
Absolutely.
it is polarized good or bad,
Yep.
you will follow that purpose of what your thought is.
Yep.
And I realized when I thought I was, as a man thinketh, so he is, right?
That's
So,
it.
so when I thought I was worthless because I was depressed and suicidal,
Hmm.
um, that's what I was. When I thought I was running still from some enemy, I was always looking behind my shower curtains, and I
Hmm.
even got PTSD from showers from being overseas because
Yeah.
your
Wow.
mind is telling you that somebody could come in here and kill you while you're taking a shower. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? So like
Yeah,
that
man.
that that trauma,
Wow. Yeah.
if we allow it to move with us in environments, it can still consume us. So,
Yep.
before we go here, so what advice would you share with people about detaching from the trauma?
I have things that I teach this at a mental health talk,
Mm-hmm.
and I call it handling your biz. BIS. Breath, imagination, surrender. Those three things are the only thing you actually have control over.
Yeah.
You control how you breathe, you control the images in your mind, and you control what you let go of or what you
Mm-hmm.
hold on to. So when you are willing to breathe, imagine, and surrender, what that means is controlling your breath. The traumatic experiences come to take our breath away. That's what
Yeah.
happens. You get this gasp and you forget to breathe again. So you're holding this breath and you're tensed, right? So that the exchange isn't happening because that's
Yeah.
what carbon dioxide does in the body. It
Mm-hmm.
initiates an exchange factor. So you'll release again, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
trees can give, you can give the trees what they want, and they give you what you need.
Yeah.
And so when you breathe, you're paying attention to your introspective. You're paying attention to where the breath is coming from. Is it coming from your chest? Is it coming from in your throat? Is it coming from deep in your belly?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. You can control your breathing. Imagination. Your imagination is the key factor here. Neville Goddard says imagination is God. The reason why he says that is because everything that you experience happens within your imagination. They've proven this scientifically. As a matter of fact, what shrouds over the limbic system in the
Yeah.
brain is something called the hippocampus. And the
Mm-hmm.
hippocampus is this like sheet that shrouds over the fear-based, the emotional limbic system. And that hippocampus has the ability through imagery to create memory. So you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine something and
Mm-hmm.
do it. And if you do it consistently, you turn it into memory. And you do that through breathing, right?
Wow.
So if you breathe into an image, you
Yeah.
take the image and the image becomes something, and that thing becomes
Mm-hmm.
an experience.
Hmm.
So breathe, imagine, and then let it go. Surrender. That's the part of the Kundalini experience that people
Yeah.
experience, where they feel themselves empowered when they let go of all
Mm.
attachments, letting
Yeah.
go attachment to teams, or political parties, or race
Mm-hmm.
identity, or sexual identity. When they let go of all of the lines that bound them, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they become water, as Bruce Lee says, be
Right.
water. Water can flow or it can crash, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever water finds itself up against, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes that thing until the thing releases it.
Mm-hmm.
Because water is just what we see as nature, as I said before, is this
Resistance.
water embracing resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Once water is done embodying that resistance, water leaves, finds another place to go, and whatever it embodied falls to the ground and dies. So
Mm.
when water leaves your body in the form
Right.
of blood,
And
right? When all that thing, you're no longer necessary in this
yeah.
form, at this capacity, at this time. So
Mm-hmm.
breathe. Follow your breath back into your body. Get in touch with your heart, right? Because everything comes from the heart. As you said before, as a man thinketh. What's interesting
Mm-hmm.
is the text says, as a man thinketh in his heart,
In his
so
heart.
is he. And the word
Yeah.
think and the word heart are the same word in the Hebrew. So the
Mm.
thought is actually coming from here, not
Wow.
here.
Right.
It's
Come on.
coming from the
Coming from
heart.
here, and it's
Exactly.
registering here,
It's registering
and we're
here. And
omitting here.
boom. Exactly. So that's how that happens. So breathe.
Right.
Imagination. Imagination is your power source. You can
Mm-hmm.
put yourself any. If I told you to close your eyes right now and go to Disney World, you can do it. And
Yeah.
if I kept telling you to do it, there's nothing in your neurological system, your nervous system, that can convince you that you didn't
Mm.
go,
There you
because
didn't
the
go.
brain and the body don't know the difference. You
Yeah.
can put yourself in an environment that's safe,
Mm.
that's warm, that's
Yeah.
comfortable, that's nourishing, right? You can put
Mm-hmm.
yourselves in those environments, and you can keep doing that until that
Yeah.
becomes a memory, and
Yeah.
you won't be able to tell a different story. And
Yeah.
once you do that, you can
Mm.
let go of everything else. You can truly
Yeah.
surrender. So breathe, imagine, surrender, handle your
I love
biz.
that. I love that. So look, man, you gotta stop talking good stuff so I can let you go. But so because you made me think about it, man. Like, so that stairwell. I'm going back to your stairwell,
Mhm.
and you had this experience because you were meditating, you were breathing,
I was
you
breathing.
were in tune with yourself.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, like that stairwell was like you traveling through the synapses of your brain, like yeah, because our that's where the imagery
Yep. Happens
is
in the brain. Yeah. That's
in the
what we.
brain.
Yep.
And I feel like it's like we have all of this, like, man, I don't know why life is like this. The answers are up here. And because it based on what we're going through now, it's about our perception and how we're
Mhm.
perspective and how we're
Mhm.
looking at things. But
Mhm.
so yeah, you got, man. I'm gonna watch this again, and I'll watch all the other interviews you've been on, just so I can keep hearing you talk about stuff, because I just like I love hearing it. I love it.
That's awesome, man. I
You
appreciate
know,
it.
so my last, well, so two things. So
Mhm.
I was watching Netflix. Me and my wife, we were always watching some crazy stuff on
Mhm.
Netflix. Just
Mhm.
UFOs and all. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it, man. I
I
just
love it.
love
Me
it.
too.
Yeah,
I'm
all
all
that
for
stuff,
it.
right?
I'm all
It's
for it.
like, man, you never know. But man, so we were watching this thing, and I think it was talking about like near death experiences,
Mhm.
trauma, and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
But this lady, she received a kidney transplant,
Mhm.
and after she received the kidney transplant, she started to do carpentry. She was
Mhm.
never into carpentry until she did this kidney transplant. So that
Mhm.
led her into thinking, like, I wonder who this person was that I
Belong
received their
to.
kidney, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
she went and did some research, found the siblings, and the siblings were like, yeah, my brother, he was into carpentry all the time. Which now I was telling my wife after that, I had my little, oh my God, I get it, right? So and engineering and just as an electrician and stuff, I was just looking at it. My wiring was just
Mm-hmm.
all off,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said that the reason why she was able to do that is because the the brain was sending signals to all the organs, right? Well, from the heart, then the
From the
brain
heart.
is able
Yep.
to send
Yep.
signals and stuff. But these signals are images,
Yes, they are.
ones and zeros,
That's
right?
it. That's
These
it.
images are now being in touch with our body parts. So when you
Mm-hmm.
talked about sickness, if you're thinking about that, that is who you will be, right?
Yep.
So now when you got that, so the person's kidney is now taken out of that body, that vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and is given to someone else, and now it is being what is it? Well, I guess rewired with
Yeah.
someone's
That's
body, right?
exactly what's happening. Yeah. That's exactly what's
So
happening.
now that kidney to that new infrastructure is going to start sending the same signals that it got from its old owner to
Yep.
this new owner. So
Yep.
now it's pumping signals, bam, bam,
That's
bam.
it. That's
And
it.
now she can do it because the images are in her brain. It has
Exactly.
unlocked some spark. So
And
that led me into the whole trauma being passed down
mm-hmm.
because these images, like they say, the trauma from slavery is still
Oh
in
yeah.
the descendants of slaves.
Oh yeah, it is. It
So I just
is.
wanted to say that, and if you
Yeah.
have some,
No, absolutely. As a matter of fact, what's the kidney there for? The kidneys filter out the blood, right?
mm-hmm,
That's the purpose of the kidney. They filter out whatever isn't unnecessary anymore in the blood, and then it
yeah,
goes into your bladder, and you urinate it out.
mm-hmm,
And anything that's connected to filtering through blood is always going to carry life force with it because according
mm,
to the scriptures, what life
blood
is
is
in the what
in the
in the
blood.
blood, and
Come
that
on now,
blood is considered mayim, and mayim
right?
is waters. It's serum. It's a
Mm,
life force serum. So like
yeah,
whenever it's in the waters, that's what you'll become because
mm,
water has to have a form in order to be experienced.
yeah,
Mayim must have form. Otherwise, it's just a mystery, and everybody just be asking questions, and they would just call it manna. That's what manna was. It
man,
was a carbohydrate, but it was
yeah,
called what is it? Because water is the most mysterious thing on this planet in this
yeah,
universe that everybody knows how it's made, but
mm-hmm,
nobody can produce it.
right.
Right.
Come
So
on.
it's that thing that feeling of the expression of water in that way. And where was that? Where
Yeah,
was you? The thing about the perspective that I like, and I'm
mm-hmm,
gonna say it like this. I'm gonna try to. I'm not gonna try to cloak it in any like crazy language or anything like that.
yeah,
But when we are willing to again step back into who we truly are, just point blank period, and realize that we're all connected. This is how easy it is for us to be connected. You can receive an organ from someone you've never met and
mm-hmm,
start taking on the behaviors of that person, the
mm-hmm,
interests. That means that there is infinite possibilities to who you can become.
yeah,
That is proof
mm,
that your heart is there to ensure that you become exactly who you say you will be.
mm,
So it doesn't matter what environment you found yourself in, it doesn't matter what
right,
church or what religion or anything like that. All it takes is something that initiates a question, a new
mm-hmm,
kidney, a new heart.
mm,
And I got a transplant of something. Well, what got
mm-hmm,
transplanted? You transplant seeds. And when
mm-hmm,
something is seeded, it's going to
mm,
grow. So the fruit that was in the kidney was what it
mm-hmm,
filtered through the blood of the person that it
mm-hmm,
belonged to, and what was in the blood of this other person was I love to get my hands dirty and
yeah,
make things out of anything. I like to get with wood. I like to produce
mm-hmm,
something. Well, isn't that what Yeshua did? Right?
yeah, yeah,
He
yep,
was a
carpenter,
carpenter, but it was
right,
actually the word in the Greek is teknon. He was an earth
mm-hmm,
mover, which means he
mm-hmm,
did all sorts of things
yeah,
related to what the planet had to offer. So he was a
mm,
stonemason, he was a
yeah,
woodworker, he was a gardener, and he was
mm-hmm,
capable of doing all of them. He was a fisherman. He was
yeah,
anything that had something to do with the earth. He was
mm-hmm,
there for it. He was here for it because it
mm,
was part of what filtered through the blood. And then
yeah,
when he was pierced and his blood went into the ground,
mm-hmm,
everybody else took up the same mantle. So we
yeah,
all became carpenters and fishers of men and
yeah,
stone workers, were chipping away at the hardness of people's hearts, right? So now
mm-hmm,
we can metaphorically put ourselves in the same seat
right,
doing the same work, and we don't have to
yeah,
identify ourselves with anything
yeah,
except we're just serving one another
sir,
as human beings,
mm-hmm,
serving our loved ones, serving the planet, and serving our creator.
yeah. Come on, man. The greatest servant, is a great leader.
That's
And
it.
I think that's a powerful thing, man. Oh God, man, I gotta have a summit with you. So I gotta do a conference or something. Like I just gotta do an all day conference with you and just pick your mind and just look at your perspective. I think it's very powerful. But so getting into what you do and how you could help people
Hmm.
who are, when I have people coming on my podcast, a lot of people are looking for purpose, and
Hmm.
I believe that, like you said, it's inside of you, and you got
Yeah.
to unlock that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that purpose that's inside of you. So I'm gonna put up your I got it's scrolling across right now,
Yeah.
but go ahead into like how I know you do group coaching, but you also do individual
Of
coaching.
course. Yeah. Of
What
course.
does your client look like? And you
Hmm.
do entrepreneurs, all that stuff.
Yeah. I do.
But what
Yeah.
your ideal clients, and what is something, if somebody's struggling with, man, I don't know if I need a coach, I'm good all by myself. What would be your why they should have you as a coach?
I would say if someone says they don't need a coach, they're probably right. But
Yeah.
they do need somebody to listen to what they have to say.
Mm,
And that's what coaching is. It's not about telling them what to do. It's
yeah.
about listening to what they have to say and poking holes in the stories so that they add something else to the narrative. So
Mm,
when I'm coaching, and I coach and NFL athletes and like just whoever, it doesn't
yeah.
matter. But if you're an entrepreneur, yes, I love talking to entrepreneurs because they're very like anxious to get to the next thing. And
Right.
I simply help people do one thing: focus on what's in front of them and take the step that's right there and do it the most confident way possible, and
Mm,
do that consistently, and
yeah.
not necessarily be so attentive to what's up here at the top, but pay
Hmm.
attention to what's in front of you, and the top will come. Don't worry about the top because there's so many paths to get there.
Right.
Showing them, hey, this path that's overgrown, that's the one you
Hmm.
need. That's
Yeah.
the place of discomfort. So when I'm
Yeah.
talking to somebody from the military and they're having a
Hmm.
hard time making a decision, I'm able
Hmm.
to walk them through a visualization within 15 seconds and they're
Yeah.
on it. And I can call them back in 2 weeks and say, how's that going? He said, dude, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. I'm
Yeah.
talking to a former NFL athlete, and he says, yeah, Nathaniel, if it wasn't for your coaching, I don't know how I would get through what I'm getting through because you actually helped me calm myself down,
Mm,
able to pay attention to the steps in front of you. So I help
yeah.
entrepreneurs. I talk to leaders. I talk to business people. I talk to other
Yeah.
speakers. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like I really don't have a genre. My
Yeah.
genre is humans. It doesn't matter if I'm on the plane or in an Uber. It doesn't matter. If you're a human being and you've got
Yeah.
questions about who you are and why you want to be these things and all these things, you just need somebody to talk to. Like I need somebody to bounce things off of and
Mhm.
understand this stuff. Then yeah, I'm there for that conversation. Now, if you really want to shift and change and you really want to do the deep work,
Yeah.
I'm here for that too. So I go from the corporate jargon all the way down to the super spiritual stuff, and we can get
Yeah.
deep into the emotional stuff. So I do
Yeah.
emotional healing through
Yeah.
what's called muscle testing. I'm able
Mhm.
to check your subconscious
Mm,
patterns based on how
mhm.
you move and what's happening, and I can tell you exactly which programs are running the issues that are going on in your life
Oh,
just by
wow.
listening to the way what you're saying. And you'll say
Mm,
it on repeat because the subconscious mind is always telling the truth. It can't
yeah.
lie.
Mm,
So
man.
I am a good listener. I
Okay.
just position myself to serve people through listening and helping them embrace who they truly are, help them
Yeah.
change their perspective about what they're looking at. And when they change that perspective, everything else shifts with it.
Yeah. Man, that sounds like a movie I'm trying to be a part of. Y'all trying to that's he didn't sold y'all. Y'all if y'all ain't sold, y'all ain't listening. Hey, look, man. Real talk though, man. That's because it's needed, man. And I
Yeah.
think like someone like you in this position, I could like if I was to ever meet you in person and not know your story, but have a conversation with you, I feel like I would already know, like, yeah, you should be a coach. You should probably be a coach.
Everybody I talk to have said that. Like I'm sitting on the plane back from New Jersey after a speaking
Yeah.
engagement. I'm sitting in between two people, two families. I'm feeling the sense of loss in the atmosphere. I don't know what's going
Mhm.
on. I look over, the young girl is just she starts to burst out in tears. I
Wow.
grab her by the hand to pray with her. I just
Yeah.
silently, issued a word of prayer for
Yeah.
her, and I wrote something in my phone.
Hmm.
I turn to talk to the girl that's sitting next to me, and she
Hmm.
tells me about the loss she just had a year ago, losing her fiance. I'm
Wow.
like, whoa, maybe this is for you. I give her the thing to read. She's like, this is exactly what I needed to see. And then I
Wow.
start talking to her. She said, are you some sort of coach or something? Because
Yeah.
like everything you saying is like really, really resonating with me in a deep
Yeah.
place. I was
Mm.
like, well, if this worked for her, what would this do for this family that just lost their loved one?
Right.
They're on the plane, they just get the news. So
Wow.
I hand them the phone. I said, you guys read this. This is just something that came out of me. I just want to bless you all. Oh,
Yeah.
she's like, "Thank you so much. This was so powerful. I needed
Yeah.
to hear that." I didn't
Yeah.
know I was sitting behind the husband and father. He gets up, he's
Mm.
red in the face because tears is coming out of his eye. I just hold
Yeah.
my hand out. Color didn't matter then. It didn't
Yeah.
matter that I was a black
Exactly.
man with dreads, that I
Uh-huh.
was I was 6'4" black man with dreads. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
What mattered was connection. And
Yeah.
that's what coaching is all about. It doesn't matter whether you want to make $1 billion or you want to make one. Do you want to
Mhm.
connect with humans?
Mm.
I can help you do that.
Yeah. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. So you could coach the coach, and you could
I
coach.
sure can.
Okay, okay.
I sure
So
can.
I'm gonna hit you up, dog. I'm gonna hit you up because Coach Al need a coach too. You know what I'm saying? Out here in these streets, you can't
I
be out
know.
here. You can't be vulnerable. You got to be protected. You got to be covered out here in these
I
streets.
know that's right. You got to have accountability, right?
You do
That you really have to have, or just some place you can go that's safe,
right.
right? And
Safe,
that's what I
safe
see that.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
safe place to be, and just allow yourself to express those things that are deep within you. I
yeah.
mean, like during COVID, I had somebody call me that we're going to commit suicide.
Oh
It's
wow.
going to take their life. That's
Yeah.
not the time to say, well, here are my fees and everything. Damn fees. This
Right.
person's
Right.
life matters, and I
Hmm.
never asked for money on the table. It was
Yeah.
the saving the life was what mattered to me
Mm.
in those
Come on
moments. Now,
now.
yeah, when I'm talking to a business leader, an entrepreneur, or
Right.
something like that, yeah, money's on the table when
Right.
those kind of conversations start to happen in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the form of just connecting with humans,
Hmm.
that's free. That
Yeah.
sort of connection is free. I want you to feel that I don't need a damn thing from you
Hmm.
except for you to be in the moment with me so we can work through whatever is on the table so you can
Hmm.
see it differently and then you can engage it differently.
Mm.
That's it.
Come on. Because making you better makes me better.
Facts.
You know, I
Facts.
love that, man. I love that. I resonate with you so much, man. I resonate with you so much. And I can tell that your heart is for the people. And, I believe that when we are given this purpose, the word says, like, I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you.
Already knew you.
I already knew you before you was up in there. Like you talked about how like it's crazy how that specimen goes into the egg, and it's like, well, if that is the case, I'm not just this little thing that has purpose. I am someone. And I think that once we recognize that we are a human, we are a
Hmm.
person, and the
Hmm.
trauma didn't take that away from us,
Right.
it
Right.
actually can bring more value to
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
because of our perspective change.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, boy, let me tell you, I can talk with you, dog. But so yeah, man, I hope y'all are enjoying this. Nathaniel, he is such a bright star, and I believe that greater things are gonna come for him and his family because of his transparency, his vulnerability, his breath. My friend Angie says to make your sound, and I could hear your sound resonating
Hmm.
throughout the world and
Hmm.
breaking chains
Yeah,
and
man.
kicking in doors to the hearts of the people who are locked in, afraid to
Absolutely.
come out with their hands in their palms. I mean, their face in their palms,
Yeah.
crying that you are going to come down that stairwell and speak life to them and help give them hope to live a purposeful life. So I really am thankful for your journey, despite what you've been through. You being you right now is a powerful, powerful testament to resiliency. So
Absolutely.
yeah, man, I just had to drop that.
Absolutely. That's what's up. Yeah, man. It's a pleasure to serve.
Yeah. So my last question
Yep.
is, this is my favorite question. It is, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy will be one of resilience and reconnection.
Mm,
That's my legacy. Reconnecting to my history, my heritage, and then always having the story of always bouncing back no matter what. And I'm
mm,
always bouncing back stronger than I ever was.
yeah.
So it's funny you said that because that's
Mm,
exactly what I said to my 7-year-old son while I was teaching him about Reconstruction in
yeah.
America today. I said, "You, son, in you, there's the power of resiliency and there's the
Mm,
message of resiliency. And you're looking
mm,
at your people and you're looking at your father and
yeah.
I'm handing this legacy to you. You will language
Mm,
this in your own way, but
yeah.
people will know for the next thousands of years
Mm-hmm,
that there were people here before they came who
mm-hmm,
embodied and embraced resilience, and they
yeah.
were able to hand that to the next generation.
Mm-hmm,
Who could we become as a people in
yeah.
general, not
In
just black
general.
people or white people,
Right.
but in general, if
Exactly.
we all embrace the fact that no matter what compressed us, we'll always come back in
Mm-hmm,
full force, full strength, full valor, ready
yeah.
for battle again.
Come on. and that is who we are.
That is who we are.
We about to get me. I'm about to run out to the stadium and just start doing some laps, because I feel pumped, because that is who we are. Like
That's
once you
facts.
realize your value, who I put on my thing, like remember who you are. I love
I
that
got it
part
on
in
my
Love Life.
bracelet. On my bracelet right here.
You
This
got
this
that? Yeah,
leather this leather bracelet right here.
yeah,
It's etched in the bracelet. Remember who
yeah.
you are.
Remember who you are.
Yep.
It's a powerful thing. If you forget, that's why we got all these kids out here. They're like so. Never mind. I'm not gonna go into. I won't go into because that's a whole other story. But there's people hurt. There's
Yeah.
people out there that's hurt, and they're doing the hurting. They don't have their fathers. They don't have their community.
Yeah.
So they're not bad kids. It's just that the environment is not set for them,
It's
and it
not.
is the fault of the community for
Yep.
not setting the environment for the youth. But that's
That's
why I didn't want to
facts.
go in there because that's my
That's
passion.
facts.
We they didn't do it to us. We did it to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's a whole nother story
Just
right there,
facts, man.
man.
That's you hit
Yeah,
it right on the head, man.
yeah,
They didn't
man.
do it to us. We did it to them.
We did it to
That's
them, man.
facts.
So people, man, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Share this video. Go follow Nathaniel on Instagram. You will be blessed, man. Hit him up on Instagram. DM him. Let him know you enjoyed the interview. Just seek more wisdom from him. He got a free 30-minute consultation, so y'all can. Right, you still got that, right? You
Yeah, I
didn't
still
change
got.
that
Yeah,
up.
I still do the free
Okay,
30 minutes
all right.
consultation. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Didn't know if you changed that
No, I
recently.
didn't change that. I kept that going. I don't think I'll change that for a while. I know some people charge for that. I think it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. Like just have this, just sit down
first
and talk to people.
first 5 minutes free. The
Yeah,
next 10.
yeah.
But yeah,
Facts.
Nathaniel. So I'm about to. So if anybody has questions, please put them up there. Please put them up there. We have some crowd engagements coming in. Brendan was very supportive. Brendan, he's a young fella, high school guy with a podcast. He's been on the team for a while, and he also came on a show. But he's
Nice.
definitely a good dude, good young man. Tony, what it do, family? Or is that hold on? Is that my cousin? Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He said, "What's up,
Oh,
cuz?"
that's my cousin. Yeah, what up, man? I feel like you see people they got
Yep.
better way. You gotta put your full name up there now. Your cousin come on here like Sunny Side Up from the Bay. Like who that? I'm just playing.
Nice.
Angela, what it
Angela.
do? Popping in to say hello. What it do,
What's
Angela?
up?
Angela. I was actually thinking the other day. She sent me the sponsorship package as a template. She was on the show
Mhm.
early on in the season, and I just was like, man, I love when people bless you without look like when you said like if somebody's calling me and they're in need, I'm not thinking about charging you, but
Right,
Angela
right.
was on my heart, and I'm glad she tuned in. So that's confirmation. I need to hit you up, Angela. I got
That's
to
what's
talk to you.
up.
But yeah, Tony for the family reunion. I figured Tony, my bad, man. I'm over here on the business side. But inhale knowledge, exhale perspective. Talking it out is breathing. Life and all its experiences is breathing. Good talk, gentlemen. Facts.
Ashe.
Facts. We gotta
Ashe.
breathe, 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 breathe,
Facts.
breathe. It's important. Don't panic. Breathe.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna close out,
Mhm.
and then I'll meet with you behind
Yep.
the scene like we did before we started, and then I'll let you go. I
That's what's
won't
up.
keep you much longer. I know I kept you like a Baptist preacher, preacher,
That's
but
all good. I did my
yeah,
first errand before this, and then I'll do my
yeah.
next errand when I'm done. Yep.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. So everybody, Nathaniel J. Brown, make sure you stay in touch with him, contact him, reach out. I'm going to be promoting our interview soon, so you guys stay tuned to that. But Nathaniel, thank you so much for joining us on the Purpose Pod.
Pleasure's mine. Happy to serve, sir.
All right. So this has been another episode of the Purpose Pod, purposely driving you forward with power and faith. Man, my man, it's Nathaniel J. Brown in the house. Man, if you ain't hitting him up, you're not in the right place. Very inspirational. Jordan, what it do, sis? Very inspirational indeed. And sometimes you just gotta let people know how powerful they are. And I've heard people tell Nathaniel on interviews, "Oh man, brother, you're so powerful. You a deep well," and that brother is deep. So, but DJ Davi, once again, thank you so much for starting us off. Cool People Network, we appreciate you for having us on your platform. Download the app, Cool People Network. Red at 28. Thank you for sponsoring us. My girl Nikki gave me the fresh cut today, and I switched it up. I had the mohawk. I was on my warrior side. Now I'm in a different season, and that season I can't tell y'all right now, but I'm in another season right now. So that's for later. But Michael Finkley, I appreciate you, brother. And always remember, we talk about resiliency. Never stop, never quit, repeat. Like I said, please make sure you guys check out Nathaniel. This is his LinkedIn right there. If you're a professional, please go on LinkedIn and connect with him. Cornelius, we have the same connection right there. That means something right there. That means something. Hold on. What you say, Nathaniel?
I say, yeah, buddy. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We get same connections.
yeah, same connection. So y'all make sure y'all connect with Nathaniel on LinkedIn, Instagram, and all of the above. So I am your host, Alan Levi Simmons, Mr. Never Stop, Never Quit, Repeat. I'm going to hit this outro, and I will see you later. Peace.